If I could have your attention, please. At this point, I would please ask that you turn off your cell phones for the duration of the program. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 35th anniversary dinner of Center for Return. My name is Michael Remenek, and for the past 11 years, I have been Master of Ceremonies at the Center for Return annual dinner. Every year, we work hard to bring you an amazing program, and I hope that tonight will be just as inspiring as always. Each speaker will present a separate facet of the Center's amazing outreach work. Number one, the Center works with families, not only individuals. The Center, after 35 years, is responsible for over 1,000 children who have gone to yeshivas and day schools because of the families that the Center has worked with and their parents. Number two, the Center involves Jews who have had the opportunity from birth of a Torah education and environment. These individuals partner with us and reach out to their friends and their colleagues, bringing them to Center events and classes. Number three, there are those Jews who, although coming from a secular background, have explored Judaism and committed themselves to Torah observance already. However, they need guidance and support to help them achieve the success in mainstreaming into the Jewish community. Number four, then there are those who, because of their golden hearts, feel an obligation to help organizations that reach out to less affiliated Jews. And number five, there are Jews who courageously explore Judaism with the help of the Center, but have not yet made their leap to observance. Please give your undivided attention as we begin the program. All of the speakers will share with me the role of Master of Ceremonies, introducing the next speaker. Without further ado, I present Larry Lichtenstein.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Larry Lichtenstein, and I am currently a freshman at Baruch College. I attended MTA, which is Yeshiva University's high school, and for elementary school, I went to Yeshiva of Manhattan Beach. Last year, I spent the year learning at Yeshivat Sharei Mevaseret Zion in Yerushalayim. All this is pretty unremarkable and seemingly does not relate to Center for Return. I'm a regular yeshiva boy with a very regular yeshiva background. But in fact, it has everything to do with Center for Return, because were it not for my parents' strong involvement with Center for Return, my resume would be quite different. You see, Baruch College is also my father's alma mater. And 25 years ago, Rabbi Kahn met my father at an event the Center was running at Baruch College. My father then ended up coming to a Center Shabbaton, and through the years, both he and my mother became Torah observant. My going to yeshiva is a direct result of my parents' involvement in Center for Return. For the past several years, my parents have been continuing the work of Center for Return in our own community by reaching out and involving friends and neighbors in Torah Judaism. The multiplier effect of Center for Return's outreach work is truly phenomenal. My thanks to my parents, to Center for Return, and to all of you who make the great outreach work of Center for Return possible. Thank you. I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Naftali Dembitzer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Naftali Dembitzer. And Center for Return has graciously honored me this evening with its Leadership Award at tonight's dinner celebration. I have been actively involved with Center for Return for over 25 years. Assisting in their front lines approach to Kiruv through one-on-one tutorials, classes, and a schedule of large and small events. Most importantly, I have worked with their dedicated staff of seasoned outreach professionals who have taught simple people like me how to reach out and teach authentic Judaism to our less knowledgeable brothers and sisters. As a law student, I partnered with the center to run a Jewish outreach program at Brooklyn Law School. That program resulted in a number of law school students becoming Torah observant. Indeed, some of those students are in attendance here tonight. This is something I will always be proud of. Additionally, close to a year ago, Rabbi Kahn asked me to take on a leading role in a major outreach project, which will hopefully soon come to fruition. Even after my decades-long involvement, I consider it especially gracious of CFR to honor me for the work I have done. I would like to thank all of my family, friends, colleagues, and business associates for helping make this evening a success. I am truly thankful to have been blessed with such wonderful family and so many close friends. Thank you for your support of the Center for Return, and may we all merit to join in welcoming the Messiah speedily in our time. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Ziva Ochildiev.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ziva Ochildiev, and I am a freshman at North Shore Hebrew Academy High School. This in and of itself is not so remarkable, but the fact that I transferred from public school to a yeshiva is remarkable. For the past 2.5 years, Center for Return, and particularly Rabbi Kahn, have made it their life's mission to get me to yeshiva. There were scores of calls, many visits by Rabbi Kahn to my house, and barbecues we shared together. But there is a much longer history which I like to share with you. My father arrived in this country in 1991 from Uzbekistan and was part of a group of young men who were students at Queens College. Center for Return extended their hand in friendship to these young Baharians, and the rabbis went out of their way to be supportive and help them adjust to their new life. Center for Return created special programs and activities for these young men that would help them adapt and connect with the Jewish community in New York. When I asked my father, "Why did they do this for you?" My father laughs when he answers, "It's because Rabbi Kahn always says, 'I love every Jew.'" Rabbi Kahn also used to tell my father and his friends, "You guys are on the 20-year program to becoming Torah observant." The CFR rabbis never gave up hope these young Baharian men would embrace Torah observance. Today, most of my father's friends from his Queens College days are Shomer Shabbos, and my family is also moving strongly in that direction. After I started yeshiva, Rabbi Kahn called a number of times to find out how I was doing. I told Rabbi Kahn that I am in yeshiva and love every moment of my Jewish education. I pray shacharit in the morning and mincha in the afternoon and have excellent classes in Humash and Halacha. My classmates are wonderful and very accepting. I could not be happier. My parents are so proud that they have a daughter in yeshiva. Thank you all for helping us along the Torah path for so many years. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Jeff Zund.
On a rainy summer day in July of 1969, I got into my family's car and waved goodbye to my friend Aby as we left the densely Jewish enclave of Ocean Parkway, Brooklyn, and drove east to Long Island. So began our descent into secular Judaism. As the movers carried our possessions into our new house, I played outside with some of the neighbors' children. After playing for a while, a few of the older boys came over and asked me, "Where are your horns?" Of course, at 6 years old, I had no idea what they meant. But the fact is that we had moved into a predominantly Gentile neighborhood, and we were the token Jews. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeff Zund, and in many ways, I'm a typical secular Jew. My family belonged to a temple, and I attended Hebrew school. But my Jewish education more or less ended the day after my bar mitzvah. After marrying my beautiful wife, Ruth, we repeated this pattern. We joined a local temple, bar mitzvahed our children, and saw their Jewish education come to an end at that point as well. Our intentions were good. We wanted to practice the rituals and the holidays, but it was embarrassing how little we knew about our Jewish heritage. We explained away our lack of observance with the excuse, "We're cultural Jews, not religious Jews." Approximately 6 years ago, I found myself soul-searching for deeper purpose and meaning. A real estate colleague who is religious suggested I meet Rabbi Kahn, the director of a Jewish outreach program for Jews such as myself. After meeting Rabbi Kahn, I was convinced to stick my toe in the water and try his Torah Lunch and Learn classes, which at the time were being held in the Empire State Building. As I continued attending, I began to find the classes informative, enlightening, and thought-provoking. More importantly, despite the fact that the rabbi is a Talmudic scholar, I was amazed that he was always so patient with us and genuinely excited about teaching and discussing the Torah, and in many instances, the basics of Judaism, evoking us to consider, question, and if necessary, challenge that which has been studied, commented on, and written, accepted by generations of our forefathers, in order to gain a clearer understanding of both the written and oral tradition. It became apparent to me that this was truly a labor of love for Rabbi Kahn. When Rabbi Kahn asked me to speak at tonight's dinner, I immediately responded, "Rabbi Kahn, I'm not a Center for Return poster boy," to which he responded, "You have a great deal to say, which is valuable." And the truth is, I do have a lot to say about the Center for Return and all the good work they do. From the time I contacted Center for Return and met the rabbis, they pestered me by email, phone, regular mail. But I could never be upset with them because they are the warmest, most caring, sincere Jews I have ever met. They have my best interest at heart. CFR is the lifeline drawing me closer to Yiddishkeit, and I love the classes, lectures, and other events that they run. I love learning Torah, and I want to grow into Judaism. It just takes me it takes me a long time. But let me tell you something. Many secular Jews feel that the Orthodox are looking down on them. Secular Jews feel that Orthodox don't consider them Jewish, or at least don't consider them full-fledged Jews. Well, I'll tell you one thing. They never met the rabbis at Center for Return. Today, maintaining a connection to Judaism is particularly critical. The choice facing secular Jews is not whether to keep every stringency of the Sabbath or whether to wear tzitzit. Rather, it is an existential choice. A Jew who is estranged from Torah is more likely drawn to causes and a way of life antithetical to God's commandments as outlined in the Torah. Young Jews are much more likely to demonstrate alongside the pro-Palestinians on campus than marching in the Israel Day Parade. A Jew who is alienated from Torah is more likely to be as supportive of LGBT rights than supporting a traditional family life. When I started going to Rabbi Kahn's classes and center events to educate myself about true Jewish values, I realized that much of what I had been searching for is already in me. I grew Jewishly and continue to grow Jewishly. Several months ago, Rabbi Kahn recommended I begin attending an afternoon mincha services near my office, even if only once a week. Later, Rabbi Kahn called me to check up and gauge my reaction. He asked if I had a Hebrew-English prayer book. The rabbi was a little taken back when I explained I don't need the Siddur because once the service begins, I close my eyes and connect. In fact, for those 10 to 15 minutes, I am transported. After a few moments of silence, Rabbi Kahn said, "Jeff, I wish I could pray like that. The experience is so spiritual and moving that I now attend mincha service almost every day." So I'd like to thank you all for helping me and many hundreds like me supporting Center for Return. And incidentally, I am a supporter of the Center for Return as well. May we all be able to continue to grow Jewishly. Thank you. Please help me introduce this year's Outstanding Service Awardee and our next speaker, Meyer Ehrenpreis.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming to this wonderful occasion. My name is Mayor Ehrenpreis, and my wife Victoria and I are extremely proud and fortunate to be chosen by the Center for Return as the recipient of this year's Outstanding Service Award. I have been involved in the Center for Return for over 5 years. My involvement as a volunteer included helping out at Yeshiva Light programs, numerous barbecues, Shabbatonim, and their annual dinners. After the few interactions I had with the center, something was very clear to me. The Center for Return helps the Jewish people find their roots. What always struck me as amazing was I had a few conversations on a small talk level at the first event I went to, and within the 5-year span of my volunteering, there were people who became visibly closer to Judaism and Torah values. There was kiruv progressing in front of my eyes. Each time I helped, the staff at the center thanked me profusely before, during, and after my involvement. My thought was always, I'm not doing all that much that the rabbis should be so grateful. But that is the secret to their success. They truly love and deeply appreciate each and every Jew. As we approach Hanukkah, we remember the dedication and sincerity the Jews had to endure to withstand and practice the Torah values. In our generation, we are blessed to have the Center for Return making the job of carrying out Jewish standards easier in our lives. Victoria and I would like to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our parents, family, and friends for coming and supporting this amazing organization. May you all be blessed. I would like to introduce the next speaker, Eric Shatina.
Thank you. My wife Jennifer and I would like to thank Rabbi Ravitz Kahn and the Center for Return for this wonderful honor. Rabbi Kahn asked me to talk to you a bit about my background and, of course, my involvement with the center. So I grew up in Lakewood, New Jersey, in a conservative home. And before everybody falls off their chair, there were actually conservative and Reform Jews in Lakewood when I was growing up. It was actually mostly conservative and Reform when I was growing up. My family wasn't particularly observant. My parents were very involved in our synagogue of At Shalom. My mom at one point was the head of the sisterhood. My father was on the building committee and head of the men's club. And though not observant, they made the interesting choice to actually send me to a local day school, B'Tzalel Hebrew Day School, which is an Orthodox day school in Lakewood. Now, going to an Orthodox day school and then coming home to a conservative home made for some kind of interesting dilemmas. For example, when I was 6, when I was in the 6th grade, I learned about Sukkot, so I was very excited about the holiday. We should build a sukkah, and so my dad agreed to build our first sukkah. We went out in the back and built it, and then we called up the local Chinese restaurant and took out the shrimp and lobster sauce and spare ribs for our Sukkot dinner. I learned at Hebrew school, I learned about, I would say, the mechanics of Judaism, but not really the heart. After 8th grade, I switched to just a secular high school, and then I went to Columbia University to study electrical engineering for college. Now, though Columbia was probably about 40% Jewish at the time, I really had no Jewish friends or connections or community. I was on the rowing team, which, to give you an idea of how Jewish that was, the captains of the rowing team were Stephen Huntley Robertson and Skip Parker. Possibly polo would have been the only less Jewish sport a guy could find at the school. After college, I moved down to Maryland, and I took a job with the National Security Agency, also known as the NSA. And for the next decade, I was basically a 3-day-a-year Jew. I spent those 3 days at a Reconstructionist minyan in Columbia, Maryland. Probably isn't the right term. But to give you an idea of, and I kid you not, the highlight of Rosh Hashanah service was the children of the congregants performing an interpretive dance to a boombox music. I am from Lakewood, so I knew this wasn't what I wanted. But at the time, there wasn't really much else there for me to go to. I had grown up conservative. I really wasn't comfortable walking into an Orthodox synagogue. And I probably would have stayed at this level of observance if not for an interesting event, which was the birthday party of a friend of mine. One of my co-workers, a very good friend of mine who later became my business partner, was a devout Catholic. His family was what I would call frum Catholics, and he invited me one year to his sister's birthday party. And at the birthday party, she came up with a question just to kind of stimulate conversation, and she said, if you could meet anybody from history, who would it be? So I, of course, said Elvis. She said, interestingly, Elie Wiesel. And she said because he is a Jewish author, but he has a very Christian philosophy. Now, this bothered me. I couldn't really, it actually bothered me that I couldn't answer her because I'd never read any of his books. But I knew he had survived the Holocaust and was a Jewish author. So when I got home, I called up the father of a friend of mine. He was a literature professor in Michigan to find out what she was talking about. So I called him up. His wife answered the phone. She was actually at one point a Catholic nun. And the two of them got on the phone, and I posed this question to them, and they were just totally baffled what she could mean. And so kind of satisfied, I hung up the phone, and I probably wouldn't have given the question much more thought. But a week later, a book showed up in the mail. They had sent me, the professor and his wife, a copy of Night Trilogy by Eli Wiesel. I read it. I was just enthralled by it. And at the time, when I found an author I liked, I used to just read everything they wrote. And so I went down to the local Barnes & Noble, and I started reading his books. And I found that whenever he talked about something from traditional Judaism, whether it was he quoted a midrash, or he brought something from the Talmud, or he quoted something from the Torah, that part of his books just really energized me. And I started looking up those sources. When I finished with his books, I moved on to the rest of the Judaica section. I read Primo Levi. I read Martin Buber. Can I say Martin Buber? I read Martin Buber. I read Heschel. They had books by Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. I read books, R.A. Kaplan's books on Kabbalah. I kind of just went through the entire Barnes & Noble section. Soon enough, I wanted to connect with something beyond just books. On Saturdays, on Shabbos, I tried not to turn on lights. I thought I should be doing something, maybe not drive my car. But I was living in suburban Maryland. I had no Jewish friends, no Jewish infrastructure. And so after basically living 13 years in Maryland, having been makarved by Catholics and attended Yeshiva Barnes & Noble, I decided to rent out my house and move up to Manhattan to try to connect with the Jewish community. I took a job as chief technology officer at an internet security startup there. Eventually, actually, I went into business with my friend, my Catholic friend whose sister had started me on this journey. In New York City, I was able to avail myself of all of the different organizations and just things that you could do Jewishly in New York. After a few years, I transitioned to keeping Torah, to keeping kosher, Shabbos, ended up actually studying for a year in Israel at the yeshiva there. After Israel, I haven't even gotten to the Center for Return stuff yet. So eventually I ended up, after Israel, I ended up in Kew Gardens, Queens. You can see where this is going. So there's a certain excitement that you have when you're transitioning from unaffiliated to Baal Tshuva. Like everybody around you is just really into it. It's new, it's fresh, like people take everything seriously. Like you don't take your Yiddishkeit for granted because you're experiencing it, you're learning about it, you're discovering it. But then there's kind of the after, right? So you stop going to a Kiruv minyan, or you stop going to a Baal Tshuva Yeshiva minyan, and you walk into, a real minyan where, Shacharis is timed so that the guys can catch the 7:14 train into Penn Station, right? And that specialness that you felt, that camaraderie, that gusto, that excitement, the positive feedback you got every time you took on something new or did something new, that's kind of not there anymore. To borrow a term from the business world, you become part of the rat race, right? The observant rat race. And that can be very deflating, especially for somebody that didn't grow up and have observance ingrained in them from the youth. It's very easy to lose ground that you've gained, to backslide when you're not drawing inspiration from some authentic source. So what does all this have to do with the center? So let me tell you. So there are very few people that I can place the exact moment that I met them. Right? And I don't mean like I met you at a Shabbaton, or I remember we met at a class, but like actually like remember the exact moment I met them. So Rabbi Kahn is one of those people. My good friend Darren Titan, when he learned I was moving to Kew Gardens, the first thing he said was, you've got to meet Rabbi Kahn. And so one Shabbos morning, he took me down to Yeshiva Shari Torah, and after Shacharis, he brought me over to introduce me to Rabbi Kahn. Now, I don't exactly know what Darren told him, but the excitement in Rabbi Kahn's face when he met me was just unreal. He started to introduce me to other people in the community at Shacharis, and he's telling them that, Eric's new to the community, I'm sure you're going to want to invite him for Shabbos, but I'm telling you, he's coming to me, And if you want him to come to you, you're going to have to fight me. Right? I'm pretty sure he meant like an actual fist fight, right? Right? That exuberance, like that immediate, unconditional, and unbounded love for another Jew, just because they're another Jew, that's the core of the Center for Return. I hear that in the voices of every person that I deal with there, whether they're calling me up for a yeshiva light, or they're just greeting me at an event. When I walk in or I hear them, I'm immediately made to feel like I am the most important person on the planet. And here's the kicker. It's not an act. I'm guessing that every person here at some point tonight probably got to talk to Rabbi Kahn. And I'm probably going to guess that your feeling at that time was the following. Of all the people here, he's really excited to meet me, right? And the reason is, it's true. Like the Center for Return has all the bells and whistles, right? They've got classes, they've got Talmidei Chachamim to teach the classes, they've got great advice when you need it, a great Masorah, excellent barbecues. They're an incredible example of what a Jewish family is supposed to be. All that's great, but for me, that's really all secondary. If I had to pick what makes the center special to me, is that the center makes me feel like I'm special to them. In today's world, what makes them effective is that they force you to believe in yourself and your specialness as a Jew. They don't do this with proofs of God's existence. They do it the way a parent instills this feeling in a child. They truly believe that every Jew is special, and therefore they treat every Jew as a special gift. You all know this is true because you've all felt it, you've all experienced it, whether you're a Baal Tshuva or an FFB, or you just wandered off the street into a CFR event. If you want to know how to influence unaffiliated Jews, this is the way. Just care about them, love them for real. The Kahns have done this for me, and now for my wife and my son. They've become part of our lives. I learn Gemara with Sroki almost every day. When I was caring for my late father in New Jersey, I had a regular guys' night out with Yosef Kahn, and we've become very close. The Kahn family flew down en masse for my son Avram Nachum David's Pidyon Haben, and I handed Rabbi Kahn the same 5 silver coins that my father used for my Pidyon Haben. Although my parents weren't observant, I'm sure they're looking down and shipping a lot of nachas from their children and grandchildren. Now, I've been doing all the talking. My wife and co-honoree Jennifer could tell you, I'm sure, a much more interesting story about her journey. We've been blessed in many ways, first individually and now as a family. But our friendship with the Kahns in the center, we really count as perhaps our greatest blessing. And I hope everybody here recognizes that blessing in your lives as well. Thank you all. Good night.
You know, I've been at the dinner for many, many years, and I'm very close to all the speakers here near the podium, and I can safely say that you received tonight the width and breadth of 35 years of the Center for Return. They're fantastic speakers tonight. The Center for Return's accomplishments are due to the tremendous Mesiras Nefesh of one outstanding couple, Rabbi Avraham Kahn and his wonderful wife Miriam. These are the people who, together with their outstandingly dedicated staff, are reaching out to our fellow Jews day after day, year in and year out. These are the people who take young Jewish students and professionals and lead them by the hand, spending hundreds of hours with each one of them until they can stand on their own and take their rightful place in the Jewish community. We owe Rabbi and Rebbetzin Kahn and the entire staff at the Center for Return an enormous debt of gratitude. At this time, it is a great honor for me to introduce to you an incredibly talented Talmid Chacham of the highest order, who has dedicated his entire life to saving our fellow Jews, Rabbi Avraham Kahn.
This year's honorees are very special. They are all capable, warm, giving with hearts of gold. We owe them all our sincere thanks. Naftali Dembitzer, Leadership Award, sincerely interested in helping every Jew draw closer to Torah and mitzvot. Naftali uses every second of his free time working for the Jewish community and inspires others to take his lead and do the same. Everything he does, he gives 100%. Center for Return is indeed fortunate to have him as a leader in projects over the past 3 decades. Mayor and Victoria Ehrenpreis. Outstanding Service Award. I had the good fortune of meeting Mayor 5 years ago, and since that time, he has not stopped helping the center. He brings a zest to every event he participates in running. That zest is contagious and brings energy to every event. He and Victoria are most deserving of the Outstanding Service Award. Eric and Jennifer Shetina, Hakaras Hatov Award. I had the good fortune of meeting Eric 10 years ago. And together we learned Torah and became close friends. In fact, at this time, I would say we are more family than just friends. His generosity has enabled many score of unaffiliated Jews explore Judaism through participation in Center for Return programming. I am in awe of his modesty and caring. Eric, you and Jennifer are truly deserving of the Hakaras Hatov Award. At this time, I would ask the honorees to please come up to the podium to accept their awards. Please save all applause until all the honorees have received their awards. So the first one is Naftali. I'm going to read the inscription. Please, please do not applaud until everyone, all of the honorees have had their inscriptions read. Naftali Dembitzer, Leadership Award, Center for Return Annual Dinner, December 4th, 2016.
Thank you, Eric.
Please stand here. And next, Mayor. Please, everyone come up. You don't have to... With the Aaron Price family and friends, I have to ask again, no clapping and applauding until after everything has been read. Mayor and Victoria Aaron Price, Outstanding Service Award, Center for Return Annual Dinner, December 4th, 2016. One second, you're all still here? Now, Eric and Jennifer Shatina. Okay. Eric and Jennifer Shatina, Hakaras Hatov Award, Center for Return Annual Dinner, December 4th, 2016. Great. Mazel tov, mazel tov. Mazel tov, mazel tov. Oh, you have a really exciting...
Push it down?
Yeah. Now begins my speech. I have the shortest speech. A merchant who has very good merchandise, he doesn't have to speak too much. He has to show off his merchandise. A merchant who doesn't have such good merchandise has to do a lot of advertisement, etc., etc. You have all heard from the speakers what Center for Return does on a daily basis. My elaboration would be silly. But I do just want to note a theme or thread that weaves its way through the fabric of all their presentations, and that is, the Torah commands us to love every Jew. The famous Rabbi Akiva said, this commandment is the fundamental rule of the Torah. My dear friends, by practicing this single principle, we can bring and will bring the Messiah in our own days. Thank you all for coming, and enjoy your dinner. And please note, tonight, for Ma'ariv, we start saying the same Talmud. Good evening and thank you. So you like the program was fantastic,
It was, I just, speechless. Some of these speeches, the last speech, Jeff's speech, they're just like the top speeches of any. If someone came for the first time tonight, they'd have to be hooked.
Be'ezus Hashem Yisborach. You know. Oh, Baruch Hashem. Thank you.
Please enjoy your dinner, and you'll note there'll be raffle sellers coming around. Please purchase raffles, and we'll have the raffle in a little while. Thank you.